We all knew that when Hollow Knight Silksong finally released, it was going to break the internet. And when the developers had announced that it was releasing 2 weeks after their initial announcement, people were going crazy. But now that it's finally launched, these devs are being attacked by others in the industry because it has a $20 price tag, because they didn't announce it months and months before their planned release date, and because they broke every rule in the book. I have a few different things to show off, but before I get into the topic, if you enjoy the content I create, check out the links in the description, join the community in my live streams, and consider supporting through Patreon or YouTube memberships. Now, over the past couple of years, we have gotten a lot of really successful shadow drops like Hi-Fi Rush, and while Silksong had a 2-week notice, it still kind of felt like a shadow drop. We had no idea that it was finally close to release. There were no leaks or rumors about it because these developers didn't go to the access media. They didn't really create a lot of ties in the industry over the past couple of years, and they really kept to themselves. They had said that it took so long to develop because they were having fun, and it just goes to show that these people are very different from others in the industry, similar to the developers on Expedition 33, but now they are the target of an attack by other indie developers because these people are saying the price tag could hurt the indie scene. They're saying they needed to look out for their fellow devs who might have had a game launching around the same time, and they should have told them privately that this was going to happen. And it really just goes to show how much saltiness there is in the industry. I understand that you are technically competitors, but at the same time, when you are going on social media and you are publicly blowing up at people because you are upset they didn't really follow like the rule book, it just makes me as a customer not want to monetarily support you because you're attacking other people just because they've found success. So there are a bunch of different blowups going on. I'm going to try to show off as many as possible. Silksong's $20 tag could hurt the indie scene, but only if devs let price anxiety win. Silksong was priced at $20. It feels low for how long it's been in development and how big the franchise is. Developer Team Cherry could have charged $30 or even $40 and still sold millions of copies because of how beloved the original Hollow Knight is, not to mention how much hype players have had for Silksong since 2019. Since it has gone up on the Steam wish lists, it was basically holding the #1 spot consistently. I think that it had changed positions maybe once or twice, but it was always in the top 3. And I do believe that they could have charged a full AAA price for this and gotten away with it. People still would have bought it. People still would have supported it because when Hollow Knight originally came out, it was $15, and that was shocking for people. And of course, that was years and years back. But now, if they had decided, you know what, we're going to try to charge as much money as possible for it because it's been in development for so long, people probably wouldn't have been all that surprised, but they didn't do that. They kept it at 20. They were very confident in that price tag, and obviously it's paying off, right? It's got 600,000 people playing it on Steam basically at all times since release. Never mind other platforms. It's making them tons of money, and I'm really glad to see that good, passionate developers are finding success. Still, it really costs only 20. This low price is making some people, including other indie devs, believe the game is so cheap that it will hurt the pricing options of other indie games, and this goes into a few other threads that I think are important to highlight. So the first one is from Lone Fungus that said, as a dev making a smaller Metroidvania than Silksong, which I originally thought would be fairly priced at 20, what should I price it at now? It'll be a 10 to 15 hour experience, but it was made by one person with limited dev time and funds. I can't afford to give it away for free. And my opinion will always be, if you feel that you have a product that is worth the price, sell it at the price you believe it can be sold at. It is perfectly fine if you are creating a 10 or 15 hour experience for $20. There are $70 and $80 games that only have 10 to 15 hours worth of content, and people still buy those. Price it at what you believe it is worth, and you will find your audience. And if you don't find your audience, you can always put it on sale, right? I get that it does look insane for a team of 3 people to make a game that now has like 100 bosses, right? And like dozens of hours of content, probably 100 plus hours of content if you really take your time and you get get every single item, but you can't directly compare your game with other games in a market like this. You need to just go with what you feel confident in, and $20 really isn't that much. Most people are willing to drop 20 on a new experience if they think that it looks good. Don't blame other developers for saying, you know what? We don't want to upcharge. We don't want to be the AAA. That is the point of being an indie, and you should be happy that Team Cherry is bringing so much positive attention to the indie scene, because that means other people will go, holy shit, this is indie. I need to up my indie game. There are other threads, though, like this. The Rose Experience says, this is a fair statement, and quite honestly, Team Cherry really does a disservice to the industry and other developers pricing Silksong so low. The level of work, craftsmanship, years, and you charge $20? I get being pro-consumer, but this would be infuriating to your colleagues and in turn distort gamers' sense of worth. So you're saying that books should be $50 or $60. That's your argument, because there are writers who take 5, 6, 7 years to create one single book that might be 1,500 pages, but it's 5, 6, 7 years of work nonetheless. So you're saying that, oh, well, $20 is a disservice because that's such a high level of quality. People can charge what they want for their product. And if you're making an indie game and you charge 30 or 40 for it, I will support it if it looks like it is worth the price. And it doesn't always boil down to the amount of time or even the quantity of things in a game. It really all does boil down to quality. I would rather a game that is shorter and a higher quality experience than have, a 50-hour experience that's, oh God, just so boring. They said, I get being pro-consumer, but this would be infuriating to your colleagues and in turn distort gamers' sense of worth. It is not their job to worry about their competition's feelings. I hate to say it that way, but this is a very competitive market. It is a very competitive space. And if you don't think you can charge $20 for your game, maybe it's time to go back to the drawing board. And I'm not saying that to the developers, right, who are making, 5-hour experience and only want to charge $5 for it. That's fine. You understand what you're creating is short, it's sweet, it's to the point. But if you have to sit here and get mad at another developer for charging 20 when you wanted to charge 20 for your game, just add more. Go back to the drawing board. Keep creating, right? This is the glory, from what I understand about being an indie developer. You're not running on a strict timeline because you don't have, editors and execs and investors looking over your shoulder at all time. Here's another thread. I honestly think that Team Cherry pricing Silksong at 20 will do long-term more harm than good. They're not just undercutting their own game, they're also undercutting the whole indie scene and making it harder for them to sell their games at reasonable and healthy prices. This is not a developer, but still very funny and echoing the same sentiment. Here we have Mr. Badbit, apparently the host of PS Trophy Room, which, by the way, when I went to look at his thread and look at everything else he's ever said, I'm blocked. I've never heard of this guy a day in my literal life. But I think Silksong's 2-week PR push has done some damage to other indie studios. I don't think Team Cherry thought about the impact this game would have on other indies and their marketing. I think that's a bummer, and I hope this isn't replicated, to be honest. You know what I hope is never replicated in the future? Indie developers being so salty at another successful indie developer that they go online and have public meltdowns. When I see a developer going on social media and I see them yelling about how unfair this is, right? Even if your game sounds cool, it makes me not want to support it, because you are attacking the competition in a way that doesn't feel very conducive to building up the indie scene, which is a major problem. Indies need, of course, all of the help they can get because they don't have massive marketing machines behind them. But second of all, you're really just attacking the customer base you already had, because sure, I get that it sucks they only gave you a couple weeks notice, but at the same time, why couldn't they just move their game by a few weeks or stand their ground because they have a dedicated audience that their game was supposed to sell to anyway? All you're really doing is having no faith or confidence into your customer base. And instead of looking professional, you're just throwing a fit on social media. And we also see Polygon kind of throwing a bit of a fit over this. The gaming industry deserved more lead time before Silksong. Why? I genuinely want to know why they feel this way, because I don't necessarily think that every single company needs every little piece of information having to do with their competition. Again, if you feel confident and you have a player base, just release your game, or at the same time, you could just push it back by a few weeks. It says, though, that of course it makes sense that smaller games would want to steer clear of the impact zone more than the big studios whose games are buoyed by massive marketing budgets. The life or death of indie games is often dependent on positive word of mouth during its release week. Let's imagine reasonably that Silksong sucks all the air out of the room upon release if no one is around to talk about your new game. Did it even come out? Within 24 hours of Cherry's announcement, two games slated to release in the same window, the horror game Clover Pit and Metroidvania Eternia Lucis, were both delayed. Since then, more game companies have followed suit, and that is perfectly fine. They only move their games off by a couple of weeks. That is not life or death, at least in my opinion and many other people's opinion. And if your game is good, it's still going to sell. So I'll definitely be keeping my eye on the situation over the next couple of days. But it does seem that there are a lot of developers out there who are very mad at Team Cherry over their decision to, I'm still going to basically call it a shadow drop, release their game with only a 2-week notice and at $20. I think the experience is amazing so far, and I've been streaming it on the channel tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern. I will be continuing my playthrough, so make sure to stop by for that. But I'll be keeping my eye on this, though. These indies are not painting themselves a very positive picture in the eyes of gamers. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this, make sure to give it a like, and if you didn't, give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I'll talk to you all again in the next video really soon.